Clorinde is an electro sword main DPS that revolves around the Bond of Life mechanic, just like Arlecchino, but unlike her, she is way easier to understand. Her normal attack talent is useless. These are just the physical attacks since her infusion state is with her skill, which has its own multipliers. Her skill makes her enter a stance in which she will have electro infusion and no cooldown on her alternate skill. The normal attacks are gunshots that will increase her bond of life, while her alternate skill, which is also considered normal attack damage, will make a lunging attack with her sword, clearing the bond and healing herself. Others can't heal her during this skill state, but the healing will be converted to more bond of life. The gunshots give her 35% bond each, and the lunging attack does more damage with more AoE and more healing if used with more than 100% bond, which means you wanna go bang 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 slash with her combo for maximum damage. As for her burst, she does 5 instances of electro damage and gives herself 114% bond. That's it. Moving on to her passives, the first one basically makes her do more damage with both the skill stance and the burst, based on her attack with up to 3 stacks. Each stack can be obtained when doing an electro-related reaction, just like Nouvelette, but unlike him, she doesn't need 3 different reactions. You can even do 3 electro swirls or 3 electro charged, they will all contribute. Her second passive gives her 10% crit rate whenever her bond increases or decreases from above 100%, up to 2 stacks, which is 20% crit rate. That's a lot of crit value. As for the last passive, it shows Fontaine exclusive materials on the minimap, just like Lini. Starting with the weapons, she has her signature, Absolution, which gives so many stats that it's not even funny. It has a high base attack that Clorinde enjoys, while still having 64% crit damage in total, for free. And all this even before considering the 3 stacks of 16% damage increase every time the bond of life increases. That's a total of 48%. But is it worth pulling for it? It depends. If you already have 5-star weapons like Mist Splitter or Heron, the damage increase compared to them is not that big. Other 5-star options like Light of Foliar, Yurikumi Sugiri, and Jade Cutter are great stat sticks too. Even Summit Shep is good if played with a shielder, like Kirara in Aggravate. And Freedom Sworn is also nice, especially in Quick Bloom where the EM is even more useful. Black Sword from the Battle Pass is also good for the normal attack damage and the additional healing. The only caveat to consider is that it's easy to overcap her crit rate, so keep in mind that if you are planning to use her with Heron, Jade Cutter, or Black Sword, it may lead to an excessive crit rate if you get too many sub-stats from your artifacts. Moving on with more accessible for stars, Lion's Roar is great as long as there is an Electro or Pyro aura on enemies, which should be pretty easy if you're playing her in Aggravate or Overload teams. And if you still have none of the previous weapons, there is also Finale of the Deep, the Fontaine craftable sword, that seems tailor-made for free-to-play Clorinde. It gives attack, bond of life when using the skill, and more attack when clearing said bond, which perfectly aligns with her kit. It also performs similarly to Lion's Roar but without the restriction of needing an Electro or Pyro aura on enemies. And lastly, there is also Harbinger of Dawn, a great 3-star weapon, as long as you can keep her HP above 90%. Now for the artifact sets, there are a lot of good options. The new Whimsy set is her best in slot, but if you still don't have a good set, Gladiator is also strong, given all of her damage during her skill stance is considered normal attack damage. Gilded Dreams is usable if played in Aggravate or Quick Bloom teams, and Echoes is also a viable option as long as you have a low ping. Lastly, of course, there is Thundering Fury. TF makes it viable for her to use 2 skills per rotation, and it actually leads to more team DPS if used in Aggravate with Fischl on the team. Main stats are Attack Sands, Electro Goblet, and Crit Damage Circlet. Crit rate is hardly recommended because of her Ascension stat and passive talent, making her reach 40% crit rate as a baseline. EM Sands are usable, but only in Quick Bloom, and the damage is nearly the same, so I honestly suggest you stick with the attack one. Substats are crit damage, crit rate, attack, energy, and EMF in aggravate or quick bloom. Her energy requirements may vary a lot depending on the team and Favonius used. With Fischl, she basically needs 0 energy, but without her, she can go up to 140% with other Electro units like Ye, Sarah, or Beidou. As the solo Electro though, don't bother building energy and just burst every other rotation. Moving on with Constellations, with C1, when your skill is active and you hit enemies with your Electro normal attacks, it creates 2 coordinated attacks. These coordinated attacks are considered normal attacks, can happen once every 1.2 seconds, and deal 30% of Clorinde's attack as Electro damage. C2 basically enhances her passive buff related to the Electro reactions, making it do more damage, and giving her interruption resistance when at full stacks. With C4 she does more damage with her burst based on her current bond of life, which she automatically gets when casting said burst, so it's basically a 200% damage increase. Lastly, with C6, when activating her skill, she gets 10% crit rate, 70% crit damage, and while her skill stance is active, a Glimbright shade can appear under specific circumstances, dealing 200% of Clorinde's attack as Electro damage that is considered normal attack damage. This Glimbright shade can only be summoned up to 6 times for each skill duration, and the circumstances to proc it are either she is about to be hit, or she uses her empowered alternate skill, the one done after 3 normal attacks. She has pretty strong constellations overall, especially C1, C2, and C6, but she is completely good and functional at C0 already, so you shouldn't feel the need to pull for more. Talent priority is skill then burst. You can completely ignore the normal attacks, since they're just the physical ones. Clorinde has quite a few different team options, aggravate with Fischl Kazuha and 1 Dendro, usually Nahida, Baizu, Yao Yao, or Kirara. Nahida can also hold the prototype Amber to get a bit of team healing if needed. Quick Bloom is also strong, with the most premium version being Farina, Nahida, and Baizu. You can of course use other more accessible options, like Xingqiu, Colei, and Kirara for example. There is also Chevreuse Overload, which is not bad either, and lastly, you could always play her on Taser, with something like Xingqiu, Beidou, and either Kazuha or Sucrose. That way she gets a lot of damage reduction from Xingqiu and Beidou while also healing herself the rest. A simple rotation with her is using your supports, then switching to her, using burst, then skill to activate her stance, skill again to clear the bond created by her burst to get an empowered skill, then continuing with 3 normals and 1 skill until the end. If you're using TF though, once your first skill stance is finished, you want to refresh your supports, so for example your Oz, Vivi, and Dendro, before using the second skill stance again. And that's it for this guide. Hope you found it helpful, and if you have any questions please leave a comment and I'll try to answer. Thanks for watching.